Hello again. The last topic in 1.4 is how to combine functions together. So I've left out some examples on adding functions and subtracting functions and multiplying them and dividing them because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Right? If you were to add f of x here and g of x here, you would literally just take f of x here and then plus g of x here. Right? Subtract, you would do the same thing, multiply and divide, etc. The tricky one with how we can combine functions together is one that is a little weird because we don't have an equivalent thing that we do with numbers, and that's called composing them or compositions of functions. So I'll just review for you how to compose two functions together. So if we have this function f of x, which is x squared plus 7, and we have g of x, which is the square root of x minus 1, we want to find their composition in two different orders. So you can compose one with the other, and then you can reverse that and compose them in the opposite order. So we use this little circle to denote function composition. So this is, we would read this as f of g of x, f of g of x. Now really what we are doing is we're putting one of the functions into the other, like as the kind of variable or like in the placeholder of the other. So how you can kind of think of this as reading it from left to right, f of g of x, it's f of, and then inside you're putting g of x in as the input into f of x. Okay, so what f of x does is it takes whatever you put in and it squares it, and then it adds 7 to it. So now what we're putting into the function f of x is this whole formula for g of x. Okay, so if I just replace our g of x here by the formula that we have for it, so what we're really doing is finding f of the square root of x minus 1. All right, and now what we're doing is we're going to put this whole thing into f of x for x. Okay, so we're going to square the square root of x minus 1, and then we'll add 7. And then we can simplify a little bit. We can square the square root, that's just x minus 7, or sorry, x minus 1. Then we'll add 7, and so this just comes out to be x plus 6. And so there is the composition f of g of x. Okay, g of f of x, this is the opposite order, the other direction, g of f of x. Why don't you pause this and see if you can write down what this might be. We're going to be plugging in now f of x into g of x. G of, and then f of x. Okay, so f of x is going to be the input into g of x now. So I'm just going to write in what the formula for f of x is. Okay, it's x squared plus 7. And this is now what we're going to be putting in as our input into g of x. So everywhere that we see an x in the g of x formula, we're basically just sticking this whole thing right in for x here. Just like before, we stuck this whole thing into x here. Now we're just doing it in the other way, the other direction. Okay, so what does g of x do? Well, it takes the square root of x minus 1. Okay, but remember x is just a placeholder. I know it gets confusing because we use x's in like all the time. So, right, there's an x in here, but it doesn't matter. This is the x that's going to be put into here. Okay, so it's going to be x squared plus 7, and then minus 1. X squared is x squared, and then plus 7 minus 1 is 6. And so the square root of x squared plus 6 would be the composition in the other direction. And this is a pretty small topic, but I wanted to address it because I think you have some questions on WebAssign, and it is something that, I don't know, it may have been a while, or it may have been a little confusing for you. So give it a shot on your WebAssign, and good luck. If again, if you have any questions, as always, please come to office hours. You can see the syllabus or see Blackboard for those, or send me a message. I'd be happy to work on a problem with you. Have a great rest of your day, and next week we will finally get into our calc topics. Super exciting. Bye, everybody.